Our next grammar lesson is on subject-verb agreement. But before that, I would like you to identify if the group of words is a sentence or a non-sentence. A group of boys. Is that a sentence or a non-sentence? Yes, you're right. It's a non-sentence because it does not have a subject and a predicate. Okay. Next one. The people are watching the parade of flowers. Don't mind if the first letter is not capitalized and it does not end with a period yet. But is this a sentence? Yes, the people is your subject. Are watching is your verb. So you have a subject and a predicate. So that's a sentence. Next, but the mysterious woman inside the church. Is that a sentence or a non-sentence? Do you find a verb there? No. Yes, so it's a non-sentence. Julia has started going to nursery school. Julia is your subject. Yes, that's right. And has started is your verb. Therefore, it's a sentence. Your beloved mom who looks like your sister. Okay, is that a complete sentence? Although you have mom here as a noun and then looks as a verb, but it does not. Okay, it's not an independent clause. It cannot stand on its own. So it's just a group of words. So it's a non-sentence. Okay, what are the two main parts of a sentence again? I mentioned that you have the subject and a predicate. So identify if each group of words is a subject or a predicate. Usually a subject is composed of nouns, pronouns, okay, or noun phrases or noun phrases. And a predicate always has a verb. Okay, let's try to identify if the following groups of words are subject or predicate. The pieces of paper on the floor. Yeah, do you see a verb? No, so it's a group of words with nouns, right? Therefore, this can be a subject of your sentence. You can complete that to make a sentence. Next one, guards the tall building at the corner of Pioneer Street. Guards, who guards? Maybe some people or some men. Guard or a man guards the tall. So guards here is a verb. So this can actually be used as a predicate. So this becomes a predicate. Next one, somebody you know. Okay, somebody, it starts with, it's a pronoun. So it's a subject. My favorite cousin and I. Okay, so you have their nouns and a pronoun. So that's a subject. Cross the river and climb the mountain. So example, we cross the river and climb the mountain. So cross is a verb. Okay, climb is also a verb. So that's a predicate. Saw the fear in his eyes. Saw, that's an action word, right? So this is a predicate as well. The most prestigious organization of lawyers. So this is a group of, it's a noun phrase. So it's a subject. Have been searching for the lost girl. Okay, we know that have is a helping verb, right? Have been searching. So that's your verb. Therefore, this can serve as a predicate. So always remember that the subject is composed of nouns and noun phrases or pronouns, and a predicate usually starts with your verb. So you have your verbs. So actually this group of words, we can add more phrases to complete them. Let's try some. The pieces of paper on the floor are making the room look dirty. Okay, so are making the room, that becomes, this one is your subject and then you added a predicate. What about here? Guards the tall building. Who guards? Or you can put a subject here. Let's say Corporal Santos guards the tall building at the corner of Pioneer Street. So we added a subject to make it a complete sentence. Okay, so let's go ahead and check the rules. But before this, this is the major rule in subject-verb agreement. So subject and predicate always agree in number. It means that when your subject is singular, your predicate or the verb in your predicate must also be singular. And if your subject is plural, the predicate or the verb in your predicate must also be plural. So there you have it. So you have this is the major rule in subject-verb agreement. Note also that in present tenses, nouns and verbs form plurals in the opposite ways. Because in the present tense, usually we add s in our verbs. Let's look at these examples. So for nouns, to make your noun plural, we usually add s, right? So example, bed becomes beds, book becomes books. But in verbs, okay, verbs remove an s from the singular form to make it plural. It's the other way around. So example, see, S-E-E is plural. To make it singular, you have to add s. So sees. Okay, let's take a look at some examples. Example here, the dog chases the cat. Dog here is singular. Okay, so your verb must also be singular. So you have to add s. It's not chase. The dog chase is, okay, chase is plural there. It should be singular. So chases the cat. But if your noun or your subject is plural, the dogs with s now, chase now becomes plural as well. And to make the plural form, you have to remove the s. Okay, so the dogs chase the cat. Here, your subject is plural, your verb is also plural. But usually, this is only when we are in the present tense. So take note of that. So here are now the rules. A phrase or clause between subject and verb does not change the number of the subject. When I say number, it's always singular or plural. So you would know when we come across the word number. Example, a can of pork and beans sits on the shelf. A can here is your subject. Of pork and beans is a phrase that comes between the subject and the verb. So sits is your verb and it must agree with your subject, which is can. Okay, the verb sits agrees with the subject can, not with beans, not with pork and beans. Okay, so it should, because of pork and beans is a prepositional phrase. It can when you say there are phrases in between, you can actually remove this. A can sits on the shelf. So that's the simple sentence that you have there. Example again, the women who went to the meeting were bored. So you have here, the women is your subject. Who went to the meeting is a relative clause. So it does not matter whatever clause or phrase is in between the subject and the verb. It's always the subject and the verb that should agree. So the women were bored. Okay? So the verb were agrees with the subject women, not meeting, because meeting is not your subject. It's just a word in the relative clause that we have here. Next rule, indefinite pronouns as subjects. Earlier in our discussion on pronoun antecedent agreement, we came across indefinite pronouns as well. So singular indefinite pronoun subjects, like this one in the list, anything, either, neither, one, no one, and so on, take singular verbs. So these are all singular, therefore their verbs must be singular. Example, each. If your pronoun is each, so your verb is also singular. So the singular form of the verb do is does. So each does a good deal of work around the office. Somebody guards the building at night. Somebody is singular. So guards, which is the now verb, is singular as well. So remember, if it's in the present tense, you have to add s to make your verb singular, and then you have to remove s to make it plural, or maybe es, like in the verb do and does. But most verbs, you just simply add s. Next one, indefinite pronouns as subjects. Plural indefinite pronouns like several, few, both, and many take plural verbs. So both is always plural, so do. Both do a good deal of work around the office. Do is the plural, both is plural, there are two persons involved. Many, so many are called, but few are chosen. So many and few are plural indefinite pronouns. So they are always plural. So you have there are. Okay, that should be colored here, same color. Okay, next one for indefinite pronouns. Some indefinite pronouns, like the pronouns some, any, none, all, or most, might be either singular or plural. It depends if the phrase that comes after them are countable or uncountable nouns. Let's look at the examples. Some of the sugar is on the floor. Why is it singular when we say some? Because sugar is uncountable. You cannot count sugar. That's why it's taken as one. Some of the sugar is, so it's always singular. But okay, sugar is uncountable, therefore the sentence has a singular verb. Next one, some of the marbles are on the floor. Yeah, this should be underlined as well. Some marbles. So marbles is countable. You can count the number of marbles that you have. Therefore, the verb is plural. I hope you see that difference. When you use this indefinite pronoun some, any, none, all, or most, always look at the phrase that follows it, okay, and determine if the noun in the phrase is uncountable noun, then your verb is singular. But if the noun that follows your indefinite pronoun in the noun phrase, in the phrase, is countable, like here marbles, then your verb is plural. So marbles is countable, therefore the verb is plural. Next one, compound subjects joined by and are always plural. Example, a pencil and an eraser make writing easier. So you have two, pencil and eraser. So the use of and makes it a compound subject. Okay, so there is two or more subjects. Therefore, your verb is plural. Again, to make your verb plural, if it's in the present tense, do not add s. There's no s there. With compound subjects joined by or nor, the verb agrees with the subject nearer to it. Okay, so the verb agrees with the subject nearer to it. Let's look at the example. Neither the director nor the actors are following the lines closely. So you have here the connector nor, right, in your compound subject. But this time you have, it's not and, you are not using and, but you are using or nor. You have to follow the number of the nearest noun. So actors is plural, therefore your verb is are. What about if it's the nearest subject is actors, therefore the verb is are. Okay, let's go back. What about if it's the other way around? Neither the actors, if actors come first, nor the director is following the lines closely. Okay, so that's how you apply this rule. Next one, inverted subjects must agree with the verb. Of course, not all subjects are always at the beginning of your sentence. Example, waiter, there is a fly in my soup. Okay, there is a fly in my soup. So the verb comes first before the noun or the subject. So in this case, your subject, even if it comes after the verb, must always agree with the verb. So a fly is singular, therefore you are going to use a verb that's singular, is. There are two flies in my soup. So two flies now becomes plural, therefore your verb is plural as well. How are the relatives taking the bad news? This is a question, so you start with your interrogative pronoun, how. But your subject is relatives. So relatives is plural, therefore you're going to use a plural verb. Next one, collective nouns. Collective nouns like group, jury, crowd, team, etc. may be singular or plural depending on meaning. Okay, so group, a flock, a class. Okay, those are your collective nouns. You have to go back to your lesson on collective nouns. So when is it singular and when is it plural? Okay, collective nouns used as subjects can be singular. Example, the jury has awarded custody to the grandmother. So jury is a group of, in other countries they use jury to judge a convict or a suspect, right? So in this case, the jury has its singular because they are acting as one. So awarded custody to the grandmother. It means that this group of people, the jury, okay, the group of people who gives judgment to a suspect acts as one. So they only have one action together, which is to award custody to the grandmother. Therefore, it is singular. What about when will it become plural? Example, the jury members have been arguing for 5 days. Or it can also be, the jury have been arguing for 5 days. Why is it plural now? Because have been arguing, meaning to say each one of the members of the jury is giving his or her opinion because they are arguing. So each member of the jury is acting on his or her own. They are not acting as one. Therefore, your collective noun jury now becomes plural. So, I hope that's clear with you. When a collective noun, when a group of people, a group of things, or maybe animals, are acting as one, they have one goal, okay, they have one decision, then it's singular. If the collective noun is acting individually as member of a group, then it becomes plural. Next rule, titles of single entities like books, organizations, countries are always singular. Example, The Grapes of Wrath takes a long time to read. So The Grapes of Wrath is a title of a book. Even if you have there, it seems like plural, grapes, okay? But it's just one entity. So it's a title. So it's plural. It becomes, it's singular with S. No? It becomes plural only, of course, if your subject now becomes a compound subject. Like The Grapes of Wrath and Pride and Prejudice are classic novels. So there are two novels already mentioned. Okay? So, names of organizations, like example, the United Nations, okay, decides on the appeal of the Philippines. So decides. United Nations is one organization. So it's singular. Next one, plural form verbs. So plural form verbs are verbs usually that looks like plural because they end in S. But with a singular meaning, if the plural form verb or subject takes a singular meaning, then it also takes a singular verb. Like example, news, measles, mumps, physics. Mumps is a contagious disease. Mumps, of course, no, that's a disease. You don't say mump, okay, but mumps is singular. So that's singular. News is also singular. I heard that the news is, okay, or the news is about the typhoon. So, news is singular as well. Next one, plural form verbs with singular or plural meaning take a singular or plural verb depending on the meaning. Example, politics can be both singular or plural. Example, politics is an interesting subject. So, politics here is a subject. Usually it's a subject in college, so or a topic. Okay, if your sentence is like this, the politics of the situation were complicated. Politics here now refers to many aspects of the situation. So the politics of the situation, meaning to say there are many things to consider in this situation. So it becomes plural. Plural form subjects with a plural meaning take plural verb. Of course, if it's always plural, like scissors, trousers, these are always plural nouns. So they end in S and they are always plural. The scissors are on the table, not the scissors is on the table. But if you say the pair of scissors is on the table, pair now becomes your subject because of scissors is a phrase in between. Remember our rule there? So the phrase that comes in between a subject and a verb does not affect your subject-verb agreement. So pair is still your subject, is singular, so your verb is singular. Okay, I hope everything is clear. So you can do your LAS 2.7. You can always refer to the rules so that you will be able to answer the questions. Have a great day.